I'm Natalie of So Hungry Hippie, and I'm going to show you today a project that I'm going to make with our new velour or velveteen vinyl. Isn't it so luscious? I've already cut a piece off, and we're going to make a boxy style pouch. So let me go overhead and I will show you how I work with this. It's very easy. I'm just going to cut my pieces to size here. Straighten all these edges up. Here's one piece. That'll be my exterior, and this will be my lining. So I'm just going to use this as my little makeshift template. It's non-directional, so I don't have to worry too much. I want this. This is a double-sided fusible. So I'm going to warm up my iron and I'm going to fuse these fabrics together. So first I'm going to lay down part of this. Oh, look, this is a sticky side. And I'm fusing it to the wrong side of the cotton. I'm on high heat. We're going to let that cool down a second. And peel that paper away and lay the wrong side on top of the fusible. So you're looking at the right side. Make sure you don't have any wrinkling. Then I'm going to flip it over and iron from the cotton side. All right, and now it's fused, and we can treat it like one fabric. Now that awesome? There's the inside or the outside, and this is the outside for me. You could do either. Look at that play, isn't that gorgeous? So now I need a zipper. I'm gonna use a leopard zipper. Get my thingy here. I'm gonna cut myself a piece of zipper tape. Okay, let's resume making this boxy pouch. So I'm going to take you overhead and show you where we're at. I have fused the lining, which is this side, and the outer, which is this velveteen, together. Now for this one, that's all I'm gonna do. I'm not fusing any Peltex anywhere or anything. I have a zipper that is longer this way because it will just be easier to sew. And I've put some double-sided sticky tape strips on here, but I've not peeled it off yet. I'm just going to get my station ready with the sewing machine and turn my iron on. You can iron this material as long as you have a pressing cloth or a pressing sheet. So I'm going to show you mine. That's what I'll be using. And I'm going to plug in my iron. I always iron on high heat. It just works. It's what works for me. Plug it in under here. All right. Now right now I have a non-stick needle in here, but that's only because I didn't want to open a Microtex needle case. Normally I would be using a Microtex, but we're down. I'm trying to restock. So I'm just using a size 80 non-stick needle. I have Gutermann thread in my pale pink color like I usually do for tutorials so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I am going to take you overhead and start doing this. I'm going to take one side off at a time. This is the outside, and I'm placing that raw edges matching. Now the double-sided sticky tape allows it to be, oh, you look at that. Would you look at that? I didn't trim my fabrics down well enough. Look, I've got some overhang here. Okay, so I've got this all ready to go. Look at that. My pole is sticking. So this side I've peeled the paper off of, and I'm just gonna line it up with the raw edge of the fabrics. And now we're gonna sew right down this edge. Now for sure, I'm gonna have to move this pole as I'm sewing. If you have a zipper foot or a narrow foot, use it. It'll help a lot. It'll help a lot. I sounded weird when I said that. Here we are. Oops. Here I am coming up close to that zipper pull. So I'm gonna leave my needle down, lift the foot, and move it out of the way. All right. Now I'll take you back over to the overhead. So there it is. So now what we're gonna do, I think that looks pretty good. You probably can't see that. Fold the seam under towards the lining, and we'll give this a good finger press. If you want to use your hammer, your mallet, you can do that too, but just be careful. Make sure it's the nylon mallets, because you don't want to leave crescent moons on your outer fabric. So I'm just pressing that seam allowance down this way. And I'm gonna top stitch that now, right along that fold. Man, my stomach is so growling. I'm hungry. Now remember, you're gonna use a matching thread color. I'm using this light color so you can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna stop, make sure all my seams are facing that way. Here we are. Okay. Let's go back. Now we're gonna fold it over, but I've got to unpeel this tape. There it is. Now the important thing here is you don't want to skew it, like even just a little. That'll make you so mad because your pouch will be cockeyed or wonky. And so bring it up so these sides are matching like this. And again, match those raw edges. Sometimes it's easier if you lift it. And look from this side. Okay, it's down. We're gonna do the same thing we did on the other side. We're gonna sew it down and then press the seam under again and top stitch that seam down. So let me get to the machine. Here we go. Now here I'm gonna go by feel. I can feel that pull inside here. I'm just gonna move it down towards me a little bit. I guess I could have just sewn it from this side. Duh. That probably would have been easier. Let's do that. Sometimes I'm not thinking. There we go. That is easier. All right, now let's unzip this. I'm gonna sew over this end so that I don't pull the pull off. That'll stop me from, hopefully, from messing it up. Okay, now we're gonna sew down this seam allowance. So just like before, we're pressing it down towards the lining, and we're gonna sew that down so it stays down and behaving when we're using the pouch. I can feel it with my fingers here. That's kind of the reason I'm not using a stiletto, is so I can feel it. Make sure that seam is not up, it's facing that way. Anytime you need to stop, just stop. Needle down in the fabric so it's not skipping stitches. And remember, don't pull. Looks like right here I bogarted it a little bit, but it's not terrible. So I'll leave it. Okay, so now we've got it like this. I'm gonna bring that zipper up and I'm gonna work with it and press it in the middle. So the zipper's in the middle and these two sections are even. I'm looking at the lining. All right, let's cut our corners. I think I have made this 2 by 1 3/4 quarters. I'm just gonna snip these out. This is my little handmade template out of buckram. Anytime I can use a template and not have to measure, I do it because it just eliminates that measuring mishap that can happen. Now you could also pin this through the materials if you need to. Uh-oh, did I move this? You know what? Let's put some pins in here so it doesn't move. Okay, there we go. So I'm measuring 2 inches this way and 1 3/4 inches this way. You can really do whatever size corner you want to do. I just like the look of this size corner on this size of pouch. Remember, we started with non-directional fabrics, 17 inches by 13 inches. There we go. Save those for something else and take my pins out. Actually, before I take my pins out, we're gonna sew right across these ends. Make sure your zipper is out of the way. Let's sew across. So Hungry Hippie zippers are nylon, so you can sew right over the teeth. I'm gonna do this end. Okay. Now we need to do two little strips of binding. Super easy, do not worry. It's so simple. Let's take out our pins. I'm gonna cut my little strips out of this velveteen material because I love it. And I'm just gonna do, this won't fray, so I'm just gonna cut a 1-inch strip long enough for each end. See, I'm not even gonna measure it. I'm gonna trim this excess zipper away. Same on this side. And then because this is vinyl, I only have to sew it down, wrap it around, and sew again. So here we go. You can use clips to hold this in place if it's easier for you. Being such a short amount of sewing, I just hold it. But I've been doing this a long time, so don't feel like you have to do it this way. Now we're just gonna fold it up and over to the other side, and that covers up our previous stitching and encases the raw edges. let's do the other side. And I'm also going to trim this. Fold it up and over. It will probably be easier if I use a couple of clips to hold this in place while I'm trying to stand and sew and hold and cover up my previous stitching and all of that. Okay, this is what it is looking like. Now let's sew that down. Notice how I'm starting on the fabric. I don't try to start sewing at the very tippy end. I think that is a helpful tip. Now these they're not visible at the end of the pouch. Like you'd have to really dig to see these binded sides. We're almost done. All right, let's box our corners. So I'm pulling this and I'm making sure that my seam there is in the middle and it's oriented towards the bottom of the bag. And the reason you know it's the bottom is because the zipper is on the top of the bag. So again, here's this corner and I'm pulling it to be straight across and the seam is down. So in other words, the seam is not going up towards the zipper. It's going down away from the zipper. And I'm going to put a clip there. And I'll do the same on this end. The seam is going down towards the bottom of the bag. I'll put 2 clips in here. And again, this one just kind of falls into place naturally. So it's the last one. There we go. And we're going to sew right across here. And you can do 2 rows of stitching if you want to. If you feel like that's more secure, go ahead. Make sure that your zipper is at least a little bit open so you can turn the pouch right side out in a little bit. All right, let's do this. We're almost there. Here's one. Here's the other side. And do this side. Now you can bind these raw edges if you want extra credit, or I'll show you what I'm gonna do. Again, it's just a straight edge, so it's really easy to bind if that's what you decide to do. I'm going to make sure this one is sitting correctly here. I think it will be easier for me to look at this direction. You can see it's taking shape. Now I'm going to grab my pinking shears and my fray check, which I have fray block back here. I don't have the fray check. I have this tube. And I'm simply going to do this the cheater method way. This is vinyl and fabric that's been fused, so it's just not going to fray. And I don't think it's worth my energy to bind these edges. It's just not. I've sold hundreds of these pouches, and nobody ever said, oh, why didn't you bind these side edges? Because it's on the inside and they're not looking there. They're hidden in the seam. I will trim threads though. People will notice threads. So trim your threads. Now, if I was feeling more patient, I would do this just as a triple measure for no fraying, okay? But I'm not feeling patient today. I'm just going to turn this inside out, or right side out, I mean. And you're going to take your time and not try to do it too fast and push out all your corners lovingly and with a little bit of fervor. Remember, your thread will not show because you're using a matching-ish thread. Even gray would be better than what I used. But it's a tutorial. We got to see what we're doing. Okay, would you look at that? Look how nice that is. Now, you know what I could have done? I could have put a little handle here or even a ribbon tab. I just wasn't thinking about that. But I love it this way. I'm going to put my makeup in here. Isn't that pretty? And you can do this with any size rectangle you want to start with. If you want a really giant one, maybe that's what I do next. I make one that's like 20 inches instead of 17 or even 25. And also, it will, if you wanted to make these side seams really, really pop. If I was selling this, I might do this. If you go in and put clips along these side edges and let it sit like that overnight or a couple of hours, it'll make those seams really pop and behave. And the pouch will sit exactly how you want it to sit without having to iron, without having to do anything special. Just like that. And you would let it sit. And then the next day, it'll just pop. Awesome, huh? And the teal, that velvet, goes so nicely with the leopard. I just love it. Extra is extra. I'm here for it all day long, all year long. All right, thank you for joining me. Peace, love, sewing.